Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, teaming up with SG1 Sports to bring you the most comprehensive discussion, debate, and analysis of college football you will find anywhere. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel at Mark Rogers TV. All right, let's get to it. The top 10 non-conference games for 2018. Let's start with number 10, of course, and let's get the group of 5 right into the mix with Boise State at Oklahoma State. Week 3 matchup on September 15th. And, of course, Boise State made its name, its brand on games just like this over the past 10 or 12 years, winning games typically on the road against the likes of Oregon twice, Washington, Georgia, Virginia Tech, and this is a similar setting for the Broncos. Boise State experienced a quarterback with 4-year starter Brett Rippon, almost 10,000 yards passing, along with the 1,000-yard rusher in Alexander Madison, going up against a shaky Oklahoma State defense. Boise State very experienced on defense against a new quarterback. It could be the experienced Drew Brown. The transfer from Hawaii has thrown 37 touchdowns the past 2 years. Or it could be the freshman dual-threat quarterback Spencer Sanders. This is the first meeting between these two schools. Boise State, I give the edge to, the summer edge. Not a prediction, but a summer edge to Boise State right now based on experience at all the key positions. Broncos by 3 over the Cowboys. Our game number 9, Stanford at Notre Dame. This one played September 29th, week 5. Think over just the last few seasons. This has meant a lot to both teams. In 2012, Notre Dame put on a big goal line stand in overtime to turn back the Cardinal in South Bend as they maintained their undefeated record and marched on to the BCS National Championship game. In 2015, it was Stanford winning on a last-second field goal to deny Notre Dame of a college football playoff appearance. What will the two teams hold for us in 2018? Well, that's going to depend on some key games before this one. For Notre Dame, they've got to play Michigan in week 1, and for Stanford, back-to-back difficult games at home with USC and Oregon. All right, both of these teams definitely need better quarterback play if they're going to contend nationally this season. Brandon Wimbush completed less than 50% of his tosses downfield. KJ Costello is being threatened by the pro-style quarterback, third-rated nationally coming out of high school, Tanner McKee. KJ Costello may not be the starter in this one for the Cardinal against the Irish. My edge right now goes to Notre Dame pretty significantly. They're at home and they have the better talent right now. Notre Dame by 10 over Stanford, my summer edge to the Irish. Game number 8. This one more interesting off the field than on the field. It's Clemson and Texas A&M, week 2, September 8th. Jimbo Fisher thought he got away from Clemson when he signed that big contract at College Station, but he's going to have to face the Tigers the next 2 years, home and home. 2 years ago, Clemson was a decided favorite on the Plains against a similar Auburn team that finished 8-5, but on that particular night at Auburn, the Tigers gave those Tigers from the ACC all they could handle, even though they had Deshaun Watson. They barely won by 1 score at Auburn. All right, either it's Nick Starkel or Kellen Mond having to face the best defensive line in college football. And yes, the storyline's interesting with Jimbo Fisher facing Clemson and the new coach expecting so much with his Texas A&M program. But Kyle Field will be rocking. But once the pads start popping, Clemson talent takes over. Tigers with my summer edge over the Aggies at Texas A&M by 17. All right, let's move on to game number 7. It's Notre Dame at USC, the final game of 2018 for these respective teams. Irish won this one in South Bend 49-14. All right, they look like the better team right now, but let's recall what happened to USC 2 seasons ago. They got off to the 1-3 start. They were drubbed by Alabama, and then they inserted one Sam Darnold, marched on to the Rose Bowl, won the rest of their games, and finished in the top 5 in the country. Similar occurrences could happen in 2018 with JT Daniels. He may get off to a rocky start. He has to face Stanford and Texas on the road, but then, again, this is the final game of the season with 12 games under his belt. maybe JT Daniels and USC wins at home against Notre Dame. But right now, I like the Irish with a decided talent advantage and experience at quarterback, winning over USC by 10. As we move on to game number 6, it's for the Palmetto State. South Carolina at Clemson. Clemson's won 4 straight in the series. They have been the much better team, winning 2 massacres the last 2 years, 56-7 2 years ago. Last season, 34-10, and the game was not that close. South Carolina, though, won 5 straight in this series right before that, and Will Muschamp and the Gamecock faithful think that it's time to swing the series back in their favor once again. South Carolina, of course, has gone from 3 wins to 6 to 9. And what about 2018? Well, Clemson, we know, is one of the elite teams in college football. South Carolina is on the rise. They're good. They're solid, but they're not that good. Clemson with the edge right now over South Carolina by 14. Moving to our top 5 non-conference games for 2018, Auburn, Washington, week 1 in Atlanta. This one is huge. Huge for both teams, but especially for Washington, and not just the Huskies, but the entire Pac-12. Coming off the disastrous bowl showing of 1-7 in postseason play, the Pac-12 has a serious image and brand problem, and they've got to correct it, and this is their best chance early in the season. Washington's very talented. Jake Browning back at quarterback, Myles Gaskin at running back. Auburn's got a little more leniency. Yes, this is a big game for them. They'd like to make a statement, but if they win the SEC, it doesn't matter. For Washington, again, to get the Pac-12 back in the college football playoff, they may need to win this game. Washington, the last time they were on this field in Atlanta, well, they lost to Alabama in the college football playoff 2 years ago, 24-7. Auburn has similar bad memories of playing in the stadium just last January against Central Florida, losing 34-27 and losing to Georgia at the SEC championship game 28-7. These schools have never met. Washington, Auburn should be interesting. People looking forward to this one between the SEC and the Pac-12. Right now, I like the Huskies to beat the Tigers by 6. Moving to our number 4 game in non-conference play for 2018, it's Ohio State and TCU in week 3. The last 2 trips for the Buckeyes to Cowboys Stadium have gone very well for Ohio State, winning the 2014 national championship over Oregon and bludgeoning USC last season 24-7 at the Cotton Bowl. Nick Bosa, the last time he was on this field, he and his defensive line mates chasing Sam Darnold all over the field, giving up just that 1 touchdown, and that was set up by the USC defense. And so 7 or 8 sacks for the Buckeyes in that game. They'll be getting after Sean Robinson, you would think, in this one, and a fairly weak TCU offensive line. There's going to be speed on display all over the field. J.K. Dobbins, of course, for Ohio State, and 6 veteran receivers for the Buckeyes. And for TCU, it's 2 of the top 10 players in the nation in terms of speed. It's also Kevontae Turpin has a kick returner, Jalen Rieger at wide receiver for TCU. Speed all over the field in this one. The only time these 2 teams met, the Buckeyes won it 62-0 in 1969. I think this one's going to be a smidge closer, but the Buckeyes have a decided advantage right now. I give the summer edge to Ohio State by 10. Game number 3. It's USC at Texas. One season ago, USC looked to be ready to compete for a national championship. Texas trying to get off the deck, having lost to Maryland at home. But Texas proved worthy at the Coliseum, taking the Trojans to double overtime in a narrow loss. All right, what has changed considerably here is that the skill position players. Last season, it was USC, very experienced, with Sam Darnold, Deontay Burnett, and Ronald Jones. This season, it's Texas that has experience at those positions. We're expecting Sam Ehlinger to hold off Shane Buechele as the starting quarterback. He threw for 298 yards and 2 touchdowns against USC, but 2 very costly interceptions at the Coliseum. USC will, of course, have a new starting quarterback. Trojan fans would like it to be the true freshman in JT Daniels. At this point, he will have had one rough road game to deal with going to Stanford, but the very next week, the Trojans have to turn around and play at Texas. A difficult back-to-back to expect from this young USC squad at the skill positions. USC leads the series 5-1. Texas, of course, won the big one that everyone remembers at the 2006 Rose Bowl. Texas gets my summer edge at home by 7 over USC. We move on to game number 2 in our countdown of the top 10 non-conference games in 2018. Week 1, neutral field in Houston, LSU, Miami. Hurricanes, of course, 10-0 start last year. Then they came crashing down with a 3-game thud to conclude the season. Few believe LSU is really that good this year. I've even seen projections of the Tigers going 5-7. The schedule is rough, and it starts with this one. Questions abound for both teams at quarterback. For Miami, it's because Malik Rozier, despite throwing for 3,000 yards and 26 touchdowns, really faltered down the stretch and had throwing problems downfield. For LSU, it's because they have no experience at quarterback. We expected Miles Brennan to be the starter until Joe Burrows transferred from Ohio State. Now Burrows is expected to be the starter, but still inexperienced, having not thrown any passes in any meaningful games at Ohio State. LSU leads the all-time series against the Canes 9-3, but I give the summer edge to Miami over LSU by 7. Now to our most important top non-conference game for 2018. It's in South Bend. It's week 1. It's Michigan and Notre Dame. This one is just soaked and drenched in tradition and blue blood royalty college football. It's a pressure-packed meeting for both coaches. They both have high expectations, and they have disappointed in recent years. Jim Harbaugh, though, is debuting the best college quarterback he's had under his tutelage since Andrew Luck at Stanford and Shea Patterson, against an improved Notre Dame defense that was 71st in the nation in the advanced metrics 2 years ago and improved all the way to number 18 last year. Dexter Williams at running back, minus Josh Adams, is going to have to step up and take some pressure off Brandon Wimbush, who cannot be one-dimensional, the Notre Dame offense, against a tremendous Michigan defense. Wolverines lead the series 24-17 with one tie. There have been so many historic images and games in this series between Michigan and Notre Dame. I give the Wolverines the edge right now at quarterback and in the game, even in South Bend, over the Irish by 4. Mark Rogers TV and SG1 Sports with our top 10 non-conference games for 2018. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel at Mark Rogers TV.